So Lisa's been the executive director of VEAP for the past 2 years. Once she started, she was one of the first calls I made. I reached out to her because I thought after our good relationship, long-standing with VEAP, I thought that was a key, really a key person that we wanted to have in our club. And she has joined the club and been engaged and become a good friend. I like seeing her every week, and they do such wonderful work at VEAP that it's easy to support her and her mission. I will let her talk about the organization, so I would like everyone to welcome our fellow Rotarian, Lisa Horn.
So to start out, first of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about what we've learned over the past year. So VEAP in August actually of 2016 launched a full year strategic planning initiative, the most robust that VEAP has ever done, and its next year will be 45-year history. And we spent a lot of time doing an inquiry into the needs of the community and spent even more time learning from community members in need and our clients what the emerging needs were into the future, and some of the dynamics in the community that were creating more complexities for people to meet their needs, their basic needs. And so I'm going to show a short video, and then I'm going to talk through it a little bit. I have 15 minutes or so, and then I'm going to allow some time for Q&A, because many of you have been involved with VEAP for a very long time. And the one thing that I do want to state going into the video is that VEAP, through the strategic planning process, is becoming really hyper-focused in a couple of areas. And there are some things that are changing at VEAP, and I'll talk about those a little bit when we're done watching the video. But our three really primary focus areas are healthy food access, housing stability and supportive services, and social connections and support systems for people whose income is limited and whose basic needs are unmet. So here's the video. Hope for the future, VEAP's strategic framework for 2018 to 2022. I'd like to share with you VEAP's mission. Together, we create pathways to stronger, more hopeful communities through access to healthy foods, housing stability, and supportive services. We are excited to announce that VEAP completed a very robust one-year strategic planning process. We asked, we heard, and now we're responding.
When we ask our clients what they need for themselves and their families, they consistently say greater access to healthy, nutritious foods. 52% of the 3.5 million pounds of food that are distributed from VEAP's food pantry each year are fresh vegetables and fruits. Our clients also say they can benefit from more frequent access to certain types of food, such as milk, eggs, meats, and the abundance of fresh produce in the food pantry. Now, if we can feed a person for 1 week for less than $1.50, why wouldn't we focus our efforts and resources on creating more frequent access to the pantry? If you think about it, the pantry is a budget tool for our clients who are experiencing financial instability. Their resources that would normally be spent on food can be directed to their other basic needs, like housing.
The basic common denominator with all of our clients is economic instability. The second denominator is housing instability. That's why at VEAP, one of our goals is to engage the community and advocate for change.
The current rental market in our community is in a crisis. Vacancy rates for market rate rent are at an all-time low. Families and individuals in our community are spending 50, 65, 80% of their income on their housing cost. The odds of finding a low-income or subsidized housing option are similar to winning the lottery.
We at VEAP are working with city staff and elected officials in our service area to assure that all community members have access to safe, affordable, and dignified housing. We do that through policies and systems and practices that not only preserve naturally occurring affordable housing, but also protect tenants from the harms of displacement. Because of VEAP's transportation program, more seniors in our community will have access to healthy, nutritious foods. We intend to be creative and continue to be innovative in the way that we do healthy food access programming. And one of the ways that we're going to be doing that is with a new program called We Move Food. It's a mobile food pantry. And so we are going to put food in a vehicle and bring it out to the community where there is the most demonstrated need. Currently, VEAP has partnerships with local community gardens who grow food and donate it to VEAP. We're going to expand that, and that's exciting. Plus, we are going to add on-site at VEAP a teaching garden. This is all part of building community in and around VEAP.
This is the St. Stephen Community VEAP Garden. We grow food here for the VEAP food shelf. We can grow food here, but we also grow community. Our whole congregation can feel part of it.
The reason I started volunteering was because food that's just basic, and it's just a crime that people don't have to get eat. What I hope is that at least somebody has a meal tonight, you know, from the garden, and that's really my, that's the satisfaction right there. Somebody has something that evening that can eat. It's just, that's worth it right there.
In January of 2016, VEAP went into partnership with Hoyo. Hoyo means mother in Somali.
My name is Matt Glover. I'm the co-founder of Hoyo Sambusa. It's a sambusa company that empowers Somali mothers through Somali food. And we employ Somali women to make sambusa, which is a traditional Somali food. We make it in bulk, and then we freeze them and distribute them to grocery stores throughout the Twin Cities. I would say the trickiest thing for a new business, a food business, is finding a kitchen facility. The overhead is just pretty overwhelming on a young company, and so you're looking at $150,000 to $500,000. It was amazing to get a partnership with VEAP to use this beautiful facility and get to start our business. We call it kind of like a lean startup. We got to test our concept without investing a huge amount of money. We've been able to grow our market. We're in 13 different grocery stores right now.
In the next 2 years, we hope to have 5 businesses like Hoyo in this space. VEAP has a new vision, a thriving community where all are free to pursue their dreams. This is a message of hope, and I invite you to come along with us. So VEAP, like I said, has 3 focus areas. So access to healthy foods, and you know, because you've participated and been at VEAP, that our food pantry is the largest single-site food pantry in the state of Minnesota. We distribute 3.5 million pounds of food every year, and over 50% of that are fresh fruits and vegetables. But what we learned in our strategic planning process is that our key strength is in distributing healthy food. And we can distribute or provide healthy food support for one person for less than $1.50 a week. And so in part of our strategic planning moving forward, we are focusing our attention on access to healthy food. And one way we are doing that is by implementing a mobile food pantry. I just lost my microphone. So if you turn to your insert, and if you'd be willing to share, please, on your table, on the inside first page, you'll see an example or a mock-up concept of our mobile food pantry. So we were funded, we were actually asked by Thermo King here in Bloomington to be one of 3 sites across the United States to apply for Ingersoll Rand Foundation funding. And we did, and so we have received funding to launch a mobile food pantry. And that funding is being complemented by our partnership with Western National Insurance Group in Edina. They provide a vehicle for us every year for our transportation program at VEAP. And so they are actually providing the vehicle to launch this mobile food pantry. And this mobile food pantry will be focused on, for the first year of piloting it, it will be focused on access to healthy food for children. And so we're in the process right now of purchasing the vehicle and identifying sites in the community of Bloomington where we will pull up. It's kind of, if you think of it like a bookmobile, but only we have fresh fruits and vegetables, kind of a mobile food market for people who are food insecure. So it's going to be pulling up into maybe a park or a school, and parents with children will be able to access more healthy food. One of the things that we learned from our strategic planning is our community members who access healthy food want more frequent access to the healthy foods available to the food pantry, because so much of what we distribute is fresh and perishable, and they want another access point during the month to be able to receive more of those foods that they value, like the fruits and vegetables, because they see, especially parents, what they tell us is they see a direct link between the food that they receive in that food pantry, what they put on the table for their children's ability to learn, their children's ability then to go off to college or a post-secondary experience and then become a productive adult. We heard that being repeated by parents all throughout our inquiry through our planning process. So that mobile food pantry is one of those access points. Now, the other part of what we heard from our community members is that how important social connections are. So when people who are struggling and their basic needs are not met, one of the most important tools that they have, or assets that they have, are their connections to others in the community. We measure, when people come in and visit VEAP in our intake process, we measure 5 indicators of stability, and one of the indicators of stability is, do you feel hopeful about the future? And then we track that at the end of the interventions. If they say they feel hopeful about their future, then we know that their likelihood of remaining food secure or housing stable 3 months later is about 85%. So it's very critical that they feel hopeful about their future. And if they don't, and one of the key drivers to that is, do they feel connected to their community? Do they have a support system around them? So one of our strategies moving forward is to build more community engagement into the portfolio of things that we do as an organization. So if you just take that mobile food pantry as one example, part of that mobile food pantry is we're not just going to pull up and have people hop up onto that bus and shop for food. We're going to have an opportunity for community members to engage with each other at that distribution. So we're going to partner with things like, hopefully, the police department to pull up and learn about and have an intersection with the police department and our community members in a park. Say the fire department. One of the vehicles is there at our distributions. Say it's the library for kicking off the summer reading program. Maybe it's a master gardener coming in and teaching kids how to grow a tomato in a cup. But there's going to be some level of community engagement at each one of those distributions. So that's just kind of gives you an example how we're wrapping in community engagement. You saw our commercial kitchen. How many of you have been through the commercial kitchen? Well, that's good, but if you have not, you have to see it. You saw a little glimpse of it there in the video. But many of you probably didn't know that we had Hoyo in once to twice a week, utilizing our kitchen space as a business incubator space in the community. And that facility right now is 40% used during the times that we're open. Imagine the opportunity in that space in the evenings and weekends when we aren't always open. And so we want to create a space, kind of a creative space for people to start their own business and tie that to our mission. Pair it with some business coaching and some opportunities for people who really want to start their own food business to do that. And so we're utilizing the facility there. We are going to be more dialed into housing than we've ever been dialed in before. And Rory is part of a group called the Bloomington Housing Coalition. And it's a grassroots group of people that are coming together concerned about the environment of and the climate of housing in our community. And our goals are to make sure that we preserve naturally occurring affordable housing and protect people from being displaced from housing during redevelopment. And so being a part of that local housing coalition, both in Bloomington, Richfield, and Edina, working with the elected officials, which we are in both Bloomington and Richfield, to look at a palette of policy and practice options that will preserve that affordable housing and protect people from being displaced. Because the reality is, for people in our communities in suburban Hennepin County, it is like winning the lottery to try to find housing. It is very difficult to do that. And why would VEAP be involved in that? Here's why. Because people are coming to us with housing needs, really difficult housing needs. They're spending up to 85% of their income on their housing costs alone. And if they're doing that, their other basic needs are not being met, like food, their medication, transportation, reliable transportation to get to and from work, which feeds back into their income, right? And it's an unsustainable situation for our clients, and thus really putting pressure on us as an organization in terms of our resources, not only our financial resources, but our staff's capacity too. And so that's part of the work that we will be working on moving forward, is really collaboratively having conversations with the city HRA departments, planning divisions and their comprehensive planning, the elected officials, to talk about what we can do to assure that everybody has access to affordable, safe, and dignified housing in our community. On top of the direct interventions that we do with our clients and helping them find the housing and maybe providing some financial assistance to keep them in their housing or find more sustainable financially housing, as well as working with the landlords and finding the right fit for people. So all with an integrated service model with Hennepin County. So some things are changing. Some of the things that are changing is in our transportation program. One of the long-standing programs at VEAP has been our transportation program for income-eligible seniors. We are no longer going to be providing rides to medical appointments and quality life appointments for seniors. That's been a program that's been looked at over the years for changing the program. And what we're finding is that there's more and more resources out there for seniors with regard to transportation. And so we're changing the transportation program to be more focused on access to healthy foods. So one of the interesting points is that we have not always prioritized in our transportation program access to the food pantry for seniors. That hasn't been a priority. So we're building our capacity and reprioritizing, shifting our focus so that we have all of our transportation resources focused on senior access to healthy foods in our pantry. Our mobile food pantry in year 2 will be focused on accessing healthy foods through mobile interventions. And what we've done now is we're transitioning our seniors to other resources in the community and actually uncovering a lot more important needs for our seniors that have been participating in the senior transportation program. And really, their transportation is sort of the bottom of the concern for us as we're going through the transition, because there are other needs that are more of a priority for them and for us in addressing those needs for seniors. So that's one of the changes. The other changes that's going to take place is we, in the planning process and through program evaluation, we realized that every time we do special distributions at VEAP, like a holiday toy program, the access to food and the access to housing interventions dips. It is interrupted or disrupted buy those special distributions like toy distributions. And so starting this year, we are no longer doing a toy store at VEAP. And the reason we're doing that is because we want to take all of our resources during the end of the year and focus them primarily on increasing the amount of access that our clients have to the food pantry. And we couldn't do that with that toy distribution happening at the same time. And so we're transitioning, again, our clients who normally would have access toys through the toy program to other programs available in the community, and we know that they exist. And we're creating more frequent access for our clients to the food pantry because, back to the number, we can spend $1.50 in food costs for an individual for a week of food. And so why would we not focus more of our energy there so that they can take their resources and keep it in their pocket and put it toward their housing needs or go out and actually shop for gifts for their kids on their own. We felt that that was a better resource of, or better use of our resources, a more empowering use of our clients' resources. So those are the two big changes. The other change that's not quite as big, I guess, is with our school supplies. So we traditionally had done another distribution at VEAP. We collected school supplies and did distributions at VEAP. Moving forward, we did a hybrid model this year. So we did a partial distribution with more limited numbers this year. And then we took our remaining school supplies and we sent them directly to the schools. And I can't tell you how many thank you cards I've gotten from the schools for doing that. Because one of the things that we heard when we met with our schools last spring was if we could reimagine what school supplies partnership looked like, what would it look like? And they said, you collect the school supplies, give them to us. We know who needs the school supplies and we have the logical mechanisms or avenues to distribute those school supplies to the kids. And so that's what we're doing next year, is collecting the school supplies and then giving them to the schools to then hand out to the kids. So those are some of the changes and the ways that we're sort of focusing in on our core competencies of housing, healthy food access, and building those social connections and support systems for clients. A few changes, but all for the end result of having more greater impact and using our resources more wisely. So, any questions?
Lisa,
Yes.
more of a comment. Don Stiles said that Rotary actually paid for most of that kitchen, commercial kitchen.
A couple of grants, yeah.
Ooh.
We put in some of the repurposing machinery.
Okay.
And we also did the kitchen itself with the mirrors and everything.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think one other point, I think there was just an article in Bloomington Sun-Current last week about how the Bloomington HRA is partnering with Knoll and a couple others to keep some of these apartment buildings being flipped, where they clean all the tenants and move them out and just do some upgrades and raise the rent substantially. So I think there were 4 projects in Bloomington that were on that list that's done. So I think it's something that the city is trying to go hard on too, which is really good.
Yeah, both the communities of Richfield and Bloomington are really investing staff time and their own time to research what it is that they can do to help assure that we maintain a level of affordability in some of that more naturally occurring units. And it's really important because for every 100 very low-income renter in the Twin Cities, there are 78 available units. And we went to large employers in part of our inquiry process. We went to large employers, mid-sized employers, and small employers across the spectrum. And one of the things that we heard from the employers is that we said, you know, what is your one of your biggest concerns? And one of the things they stated was an unstable workforce. And one of the key drivers for the instability was housing. And so you know, it's not just the city, it's not just service providers, it's sort of people are paying attention to it. And so we began to see, that's part of the reasons why we decided we need to be a part of the conversation, because we're credible and we're, you know, strong partners with communities. The city, for example. I'm sure you experience it in the police department with, you know, when there are situations where many families are living in a dwelling and the level of stress that is created when multiple families are living in one dwelling space, you know, begins to make an impression on mental health. It begins to make impression on physical health, which in Bloomington School District, we work with the homeless liaison in the Bloomington School District, and at any given point, there's about 170 homeless kids in the school district here in Bloomington. So we heard it across every partner group that we interviewed during our planning. Did somebody, yeah?
Are you working with some of the corporations about getting your food supply, like Super Value or General Mills, or we have a lot of food companies here in distribution. I was wondering if that's where you're getting your food from. You're not running to Costco for everything.
Nope. So that is one of our core competencies. Is we are experts at being able to procure food. That's why we can provide a week's worth of food for less than $1.50. So we have two food bank partnerships. It's their job for food shelves to go out and procure from those manufacturing and retailers, right? And then we purchase food from the food banks like Second Harvest or the Food Group. And it's at a reduced cost, but we still purchase them. We also do retail rescue, so we go out and rescue food from our local retailers when food comes close to the use-by date. So that's where we get most of our fresh produce and our perishable foods like meat, dairy, eggs, and the like. And then we get federal commodities as well. And we rely on a lot of community donations like food drives. It's not the largest source of food, but it provides a lot of really great variety for us on our shelves. Plus, like farmer market gleaning and community gardens who grow for us. So we are known in Minnesota for being one of the experts in being able to procure food for distribution.
Does anyone around here do food rescue for unserved hot perishable foods from nursing homes and hospitals and that kind of thing?
That's a little bit trickier that's a little easier to do if you're a meal program, more complicated to do for us here as a food shelf. But that's an appropriate strategy for a meal program.
Second Harvest does that.
Yeah. And so Second Harvest works with both food shelves and meal programs. Mm-hmm.
Lisa, will your mobile pantries be able to operate year-round, or will
Yes.
they be constrained by climate?
No. So basically, you can hop up on the bus and shop right in the bus. So that extended side that you see obviously wouldn't be appropriate in the winter months, but in the summer, all year round, people can hop up, shop on the bus. Mm-hmm.
You do so well with your food mission. Do you really see yourself as making an impression on the housing side? It would seem to me that housing could consume. It is so difficult, so complex, so many faceted, and so short of funds that I wonder, as an organization, you may be a referral agency, but how deeply do you want to get into it?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. We're not going to ever own properties for housing and be a landlord or own properties. That's not part of our 3 to 5 year plan. But I can give you an example. So there's a property called Towers Management, and they have a portfolio across suburban Hennepin County. And there's one property in Bloomington. And we heard through a grapevine that that property there was an offer on that property. And it was by a for-profit developer. Now, the majority of the renters in that property are low-income renters. And there were hundreds of units there. And just watching the trend, we knew, if you followed what happened at Crossroads in Richfield, when properties like that are developed, they're usually upgraded, and the price increases, and then there's an opportunity to change sort of the criteria for living there. And in the example of the Crossroads development in Richfield, all but a handful, there were hundreds and hundreds of tenants there, and all but a handful are no longer living there. But there's an opportunity for private and nonprofit preservation developers, both private and nonprofit preservation developers, to come in and maintain the affordability of those units. So one of the things that, for example, in that situation, we asked VEAP, Bloomington Housing Coalition, places like the HRA, or not the HRAs, but the school district. This has happened in Richfield too. The Richfield City Council send letters asking the property owner to wait, to accept the purchase agreement, and allow time for for nonprofit preservation developer to come in and put in an offer. We, VEAP, by writing a letter of support and working with the Bloomington Housing Coalition and other housing advocate groups, bought enough time where that property owner actually, I think Aon may have been one of the stated in the Sun Current. Aon put in a bid and they were actually selected. So what they will do is they'll come in and they'll purchase it and upgrade some of the units, but maintain the affordability. One of the conversations we're having with the city is to create a waiting period, or sort of it's called a 60 to 90 day of informing the city that there's a potential sale, or that they want to put a property up for sale. And that just allows people to put in bids, right? It doesn't guarantee that it's going to go one way or the other, but at least it allows enough time for people to put in competitive offers. That's one of the ways that VEAP is involved in that. We're not going to, own it, but we're at the table saying, here's why this is important. So that's the space that we're in collaboration, in conversation, representing the needs of community members and empowering them to have dialogue too. So.
Wow, thank you, Lisa.
Yes. Thank you.